Okay, hello everyone. Tectonic Exile here. Today I'm going to talk about my 3.26 Secrets of the Atlas League start plans. Bottom line is that I am going to be going Chieftain, League start, up until the end game, and just sticking with the Chieftain. Reason, I considered a few different ascendancies. Juggernaut, Berserker, and Champion were also candidates for 3.26 for me. I'm definitely going melee. I really only play melee, but I know that I want to play slams based on what's going on, and there's a few different things that I'm seeing here this league that have got me a little bit interested. So let me just go ahead and show you the one thing, number one, that made me land on Chieftain. It's going to be this ring, Enmity's Embrace. I don't care how rare it is or how expensive it's going to be this league. I think it may be quite common because it's from these pinnacle bosses, it looks like, and that means that everybody's going to have to go through them, and there may be a good number of these. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of people are going to struggle to fit this into their builds. Even though it looks great, you really have to build around it, and I think Chieftain is probably one of the few ascendancies that really builds around this well. And reason being, for those who maybe are new, are these two ascendancy points here in Chieftain. The first one giving you cold and lightning resistance when you stack your fire resistance, get a ton of fire resistance, and you're getting 50% of that amount of cold and lightning. And then Velaco means that I can stack my max fire resistance increases and also get to 90 max cold and lightning res as well. So that's kind of the core defenses for my Chieftain here this league. In addition to that, though, I'm also looking at Scion Sun's Roar, and the first thing that comes to mind for me with this is obviously the buff effect and infinite power. Well, that's all there is to it. But there's a lot of opportunities that are created with that infinite power. And the first thing that comes to mind for me that I used to use in the past with Tectonic Slam of Cataclysm is Enduring Cry, where you get those endurance charges. And that used to be great and fun for me to play with. But this league, I'm not going to be doing endurance charge stacking, at least at the league start. I'm going to try to go Earth Shatter is really what I would like to do, but a fire variant. So, as some of you may know, I did Earth Shatter in the Freesia League on an Ancestral Commander, and also on the Behemoth. And I just had a ton of fun playing Earth Shatter. And this time, just to do a repeat, I want to try to take it in a different direction and do a fire variant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to convert 100% fire, fizz to fire, by using Avatar of Fire. I am also planning to use the 40% fizz to fire conversion here on the mastery, and then I also plan to get on gloves an implicit. I want to say that it's the Eater implicit that can get you the conversion to fire. And then I probably would grab maybe attack speed on the other one. But so that would be a rare pair of gloves that I'd be using, kind of locked into to finish off my last full 100% conversion. And so you could get 50 from here and 40 from here, but if you don't get that extra 10% on gloves, then you kind of miss out on a small amount of damage from the fizz, that last 10%. So you don't, because this Avatar Fire makes it so that you deal no non-fire damage, so any damage that's not converted to fire just gets wasted. So that's the goal, is to not waste that, and that's why it's worth it to use your implicit in some cases. I think it works out mathematically. I'm not a big numbers guy, but to me, from what I've seen, I think it makes sense to convert it. So I haven't filled out the passive tree yet for my plan. I'm just going to probably do a basic Sunder League start slam leveling up until maps, and then switch over to the Earth Shatter maybe, in the 70s or 80s. I don't think there's too much pressure on the switch. I think it should be pretty smooth transition over. But let me go back. I got a little sidetracked here. What I was talking about with Enduring Cry is so yes, you get the endurance charges. It's going to make you give you fizz reduction. It's also going to give you elemental reduction, making you quite a bit tankier depending on how many endurance charges you have. But the key part for my build this league is going to be the life regen component of Enduring Cry. Let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so let's look right here. The buff. Now this is the buff part of Enduring Cry. 2% of life per 5 power. So total potential base 10% of life, and that's before any of your increased buff effect, which, as we know, Chieftain has 30% increased buff effect on the Ascendancy, and then not to mention some various nodes around the tree increase Warcry buff effect over here. A good chunk, what was that, 20, 30, 45, 50, 45, and then over here you have 55, and that's 75% increase, and then plus the 30, 105 increased buff effect. So 105 increased buff effect, basically doubling your life regen. So that's 20% life regenerated per second. And what that means for me is that with my 90% max fire res, I can slap on this Annihilations approach that I've always wanted to play with and get permanent adrenaline. And when I mean permanent, that because I'm going to Enduring Cry, and I might slap on a more duration support to make sure that this buff lasts long enough to cover the entire time as the Enduring Cry is cooling down. So you're gonna have to keep Enduring Crying, and you can't automate this, or else you won't get the buff. You can't hook this up to auto exertion. But the benefit here, and what makes it worth it to me, is the fact that I can be permanently, adrenaline buffed, and that's good for me because I really could use the physical damage reduction here on Chieftain. I was trying to figure out how am I going to build my defenses. So as far as fizz mitigation, I'm looking at endurance charges, and also something I can't normally say. I'm going to rely on adrenaline for 10% PDR, which is pretty awesome. And whether or not this is not necessarily going to be like a top performing build, this is probably not within the meta. It's kind of janky, but for me, it's really exciting to be able to have adrenaline up, the extra move speed. I like to do a little bit of heist, and I don't want to get away from playing like my melee slam builds. So the extra move speed, 30% here plus 25% on adrenaline, and I'm gonna have onslaught, hopefully from a cluster jewel. After your Warcry, you get onslaught for 4 seconds from cluster jewel, and then the real damage potential here, I'm not sure. I don't know what to expect as far as what max, what values you're going to get as overcapped fire resistance after you take out the reduced fire resistance here. So that negative there could be pretty limiting on how much fire resistance I'm going to get, but that's what the fun part is, is the unknown of really, to see how far can we push this build if we do a full fire conversion. And I think just the skill itself, Earth Shatter, with the overlapping spikes and the main hit as well. It's a great build for doing just about all content. It's not the best mapper. It's also not the best bosser, but it can do both. I'm comfortable and confident in it that it can do T17 bosses, that it can do Uber bosses, and that's all I really care about is because if I have limited time to invest in these characters, I don't like to necessarily do a league start and then re-roll and then have to re-gear everything up and worry about selling my gear off and things like that. I really would like to see this league me start with this chieftain and end with this chieftain, and just really min-max this chieftain with the fire damage. Um, there was something in the patch notes about there being cover an ash, cover your enemies in ash, and so I still haven't settled on a helmet slot. Echoes of Creation obviously is an option here, and that's going to add a good amount of damage, but there are some other options, some really interesting options this league as well. I think it's from the Mercenaries that you can get some ash, cover an ash buff from the helmet. At the same time, the Mercenaries themselves are looking like they may be able to create the covered in ash effect as well, where you may not have to give up your head slot. So there's some flexibility in that slot. As far as the weapon goes, I don't know what weapon I'm going to use yet. It could be an axe, it could be a mace, it could be a war staff, like the eventuality rod to get an extra +1 max endurance charge with high crit. I don't know if this is going to be a crit build yet or not, but this is where I'm starting off, and I'm gonna kind of wing it. I'm leaving some room for flexibility, depending. I think if I end up landing one of the gems, the new gems from the Mercenaries, like Sunder of Troarthus, I'm definitely gonna slap that on to see how that feels in the leveling process, and maybe that'll take me all the way to level 85 or 90 without even switching over to Earth Shatter. Who knows? Honestly, it reads really great. If you guys haven't read it yet, it sounds like it has some type of an effect like Volcanic Fissure of Snaking, which I'm resisting in the play. I'm not playing that, meta build. That's not really fun for me. And my theory is always that if I'm playing the meta build, then I'm going to be fighting with everybody else for the same item. So my hope here is that by doing this, I'm not fighting with everybody else for super expensive items. There's going to be overlap because both of these are Fire Slam builds that I'm doing, and so there could be people fighting for the same items, but the small little differences might free up, hopefully nobody, my hope is that nobody's playing with Annihilation's approach on those Volcanic Fissure snaking builds. I would think that they're probably not on a Berserker, especially the people who are going Berserker on it. Like, good luck to you guys if you slap on Annihilation's approach on your Berserker. And so that's really, why I'm playing Chieftain this time. And, the buff effect. So let's talk about the buff effect real quick one more time. Infinite power on Chieftain, buff effect. What's exciting about that? Rallying Cry, Infernal Cry. Those are actual DPS boosts. Of course, Intimidating Cry, double damage on your slams. And then, of course, I'm going to run Battle Mage's Cry probably on Auto Exertion, Seismic Cry as well. I was thinking about putting that on Auto Exertion as well. And mainly because I'm not sure that I really care about the armor buff from Seismic Cry, because my core defense is really coming from endurance charges and this adrenaline thing, and then plus just a modest amount of armor as well. I'm hoping is going to get me somewhere close to 90% physical damage reduction, and then even if not, I think if I'm short of that, that's okay. If I'm at 80 to 85% PDR, whatever, because my character will just be better when it comes to elemental damage, and I'm going to try to squeeze out 50, 60 plus chaos resistance on it, hopefully capped like 75, but so my items are going to look a lot like chaos and fire resistance on the suffixes, and then something, the third suffix, the goal, I should have enough fire resistance that I don't have to have any suffixes used for lightning or cold resistance, so I can use something that might give me some damage. I can maybe spell suppression. I'm not really considering spell suppression right now for this build. I don't think it's necessary, so I would probably use that suffix maybe for attributes to meet attribute requirements and not have to grab a 30 int node or something like that, like I sometimes do, or like the 30 dex node or something. Like I hate to do that on the tree, so you know I'm sure a suffix can be used that way. Of course, attack speed on certain slots, you can get some attack speed to smooth things out depending on how fast my weapon is. And we'll see. Like I said, this is still up in the air. I don't even have a passive tree built out. I'm just kind of wing it. I know that I need fire. Like I showed you what I need. I need the fire conversion. I need Avatar of Fire, whether that's maybe from Zoph's blood or Zoph's heart, the amulet, the high one. But that, and then of course the Warcry stuff. I need the Warcry stuff, and then a bunch of life. I need a good chunk of life because that's going to help me regen to deal with the burn from Annihilation's approach. If you have 90% fire res, my math says that I'm going to take 600 fire damage per second, give or take. And so I need to get a good amount above that of life regen, so that I'm still able to regenerate myself when I lose life, on top of the leech that I have. The other part that I think makes sense for this chieftain, for the defenses, is that these two lines right here cannot be chilled, cannot be frozen. Chieftain itself, which very awesome, unaffected by ignite. And then on Pantheon, minor Pantheon, 60% reduced effective shock. So basically, I'm getting immune to elemental ailments, and don't have to worry about buying a Storm Shroud early in the league or something like that. And also using, say, a Stygian Vise for the avoid shock, the avoid shock on that to get 100% ailment immune. And so that, not having to use certain slots and resources on that can really free up, I think, my build and let me focus on other things. Maybe getting a good weapon earlier, maybe, saving up. And if I want Echoes of Creation in this build, ultimately, then maybe I can dump my money into that rather than having to dump it into a Storm Shroud, because as we know, when you hit red maps, things can start to hurt quite a bit, and you kind of want to be ailment immune. You kind of want to not be getting frozen all the time. I don't necessarily want to have to run a flask with cold, chilled and freeze immune on it. I want to be able to run my 4 flasks, utility flasks, and maybe 1 for like corrupted blood and bleeding is usually what I would go with. So there's little gains that you get there by having these built in and not having to run something else. Like Purity of Elements is another option that I thought about, and that can get you a little bit more resistance. I just don't know if it's worth it. Like, let's see, okay, Purity of Elements, 34. You need 34 to all elements, and you get ailment immunity. Yeah, great. And then you can get quality on it, so you can get like 39 if you don't have any extra quality. That's cool, but this right here is going to knock that down quite a bit. Not saying that it's not a valuable source, but that's a 50% reservation, and that makes it very tight with your auto exertions. So really, Purity of Fire is what I am definitely going to try to squeeze in, and if I have to, there is, I believe, a cluster jewel node that can reduce the mana reservation of Purity of Fire by like 80%, which in this build it may work. I think you could probably later in the league find a megalomaniac, and you just search for that node and take whatever else you get, and it should be pretty cheap. Megalomaniacs are really rarely ever more than the divine, even for some pretty good ones. And you know, for me, because I used to, I was doing some what do you call them, simulacrums last order in Phoenicia, um, and I couldn't sell my megalomaniacs for anything. But now I'm on the receiving end where I'm looking to buy one, and you know, it would be great to benefit from that. So I think that's really it. All I have right now. But I just wanted to get this out there, and maybe give some people some ideas. I'd love to see some people playing along. I'm hoping that not too many people compete with me for these things. I hope that people find their own ways to, also, do their builds. But, let's get on the fun, guys and girls. This ring right here looks pretty awesome. Penetration from fire resistance. I didn't really talk about this, but I kind of just assumed that we knew what this was. For anybody who's new, this could be a massive damage increase, having this damage penetration. And since we're playing a hit build, this does work, and this could scale it really hard. This is an alternative. A lot of people are talking about, oh, what's Doriani's prototype going to do on a mercenary? That it's going to make it like you can't choose anything else. Everybody's going to have to play lightning. Not necessarily. If we have a ton of damage penetration, a fire here, it could be just as good as a Doriani's prototype getting negative 200 lightning resistance from Doriani's from your mercenary. And your mercenary, let's remember that mercenary could die at any time in the boss fight or while mapping, and then what? Then you're missing out on a bulk of your damage. Well, on this build, the fire build, your fire penetration would be built into your character and always there. So if you can get down to negative 200 with the penetration, which is probably going to be very difficult, but there's a compromise. You come up a little bit short of that, but you get that all the time and don't have to worry about keeping your mercenary alive. So for me, it's more consistent. It's not maybe as powerful, sure, but definitely powerful enough. We're already talking about a skill, Earth Shatter, that I'm looking at, and maybe this Sunder of Schwarthish might be pretty good for damage as well. These are things that already can clear the entire game, and you have some room to be a little bit inefficient, to have some fun, put your spin on it. I always think about, like, if I have a big fizz weapon, what would happen if I slap on a hatred and get the fizz added as extra cold damage. Those types of buffs, it's not the most efficient way necessarily to build your character, but I really love to see people do things like that, and not necessarily min-maxing their characters. Well, min-maxing, I guess that's what we're always doing, but I always try to encourage people to not give up on their fun just to make the most powerful character. Like, I think there's been some discussions before about, like, why make a character in just a weaker version of a character, and when you can just copy everybody else and their builds that they're doing. I'm still in the ballpark, or thinking that it does make sense sometimes to just have fun with the game, do what you want to do what you love, and don't worry about what everybody's necessarily doing. Don't look at PoE Ninja for the first week or two and just kind of do your thing, have fun. Look at the items that are in front of you, new for the league, and the possibilities that you might be able to create. And I think that's how I'm going to have the most fun this league. And let me know if you guys also decide to do that and end up having fun. I'd love to hear that you guys had a similar experience from that. I guess I would be in that anti-meta category somewhat. I consistently play slams, and just because a slam build happens to be a meta build this league, I guess I'm happy about that, but I'm also, I'm hoping to keep myself distanced from being seen as a meta enjoyer. So I think that's all I got right now. I'm gonna go ahead and get this up. Today it's right now early Thursday morning, and yeah, we got about the rest of today and tomorrow, Friday, before we go live, and I'll be playing through the weekend, and also I took off Monday and Tuesday so that I can try to push through. Maybe probably not farm a Mage Blood. I've never done that before in the first few days, but it's a goal of mine. Like, we'll see if I can get some good drops and get lucky with this and keep momentum going. That would be awesome to have a Mage Blood before having to go back to work on Wednesday and having to only play at nights. That could really make it really great for next weekend, the following weekend, when I can go in and play all day and have some items and be able to push some hard content. Maybe do some uber bossing or something like that the following weekend. That would be, and when some like the fragments are for sale in the trade. But okay, yeah, so that's all I've got right now. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel if you guys like what you've heard today and agree with anything, because I'd love to talk to you guys and engage in the chat, and do on some live streams that I look forward to doing in the future. And yeah, just it's a small community that I have here, perhaps, but with the right people, I don't think that this is a bad thing. It's fine to have a small group here, and I think that that's really why I make this content, and I hope you guys like some of this stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in 3.26.